For 19 First Alert Forecast, sponsored by Kissling, Nestico, and Reddick. Heard in a car? Call KNR.
All right, when I say I was overwhelmed, just stepping in and just seeing, I needed a moment. Needed a moment to absorb all of that in. Some folks may need a moment for all of this rain. But you're here to kind of educate folks that this is not going to be a theme for the weekend.
No, it's not. And, you know, we're going to have a couple of days between this system that we're dealing with tonight and potentially more wet weather that's going to be on the way for the holiday weekend. Let's walk you through kind of what's happening right now. You take that live look from our Jack Casino camera looking out over Rocket Arena, and you can see all those little raindrops that are still dotting our camera. You can tell the roads are wet from some of the rain that's recently moved through. This is kind of what I would call wave number one. We've got wave number two coming into our southwestern zones, so we still have more opportunities to pick up on some rain as we continue through the overnight. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that this is something we're going to be dealing with throughout the entire weekend. So if you wanted to, an excuse to stay inside this weekend weather-wise, you're probably not going to find it for at least this weekend. Yes, as we get into early Saturday, the rain clears out. Temperatures will cool off right ahead of sunrise. Most of us will be probably upper 30s to about low 40s, but we will eventually see a lot more of this sunshine working through. And that's really good news for us because it allows us to enjoy a relatively quieter weather pattern trying to take shape as we go through the next couple of days. So temperatures again tomorrow morning, upper 30s to about lower 40s. I don't necessarily think we're going to see the biggest rebound in our temperature through the afternoon. Most of us will rest kind of in that mid to upper 40-degree range, but you will slowly see continued improvements as we go through the rest of this weekend, enjoying a lot more of that sunshine and a relatively quiet weather pattern for now. That's not going to last too long. Once we step into the upcoming week, we are going to be tracking another bigger system. Not only brings us an opportunity for rain, but it will also have some much colder air associated with it, especially as we get into Thanksgiving Day. And that's where we could be talking about a transition over to some snow. So there is a lot to kind of digest with next week's weather pattern and details that we'll continue to iron out as we go through the course of this weekend. But enjoy the weekend. Temperatures tomorrow, technically right around average for where we should be for this time of the year, mid to upper 40s. We'll get seasonably cold through the overnight. Tomorrow night, temperatures back mid 30s, and then trying to get as close to 50 degrees as we can for Sunday. It will be breezy, so that may have a little bit of an impact with how warm that temperature can actually get, because you are going to be working in a bit more of a westerly wind, and at times could gust upwards of maybe 30 miles per hour. So it will be a little bit gustier, which is why we knocked that temperature down just a couple of degrees in case the wind has a little bit more of a bigger impact on how warm that temperature can get through the course of the afternoon. But no worries, we'll see more 50s on the board headed into the early part of this next week. Monday, mid 50s, Tuesday also staying around the mid 50s. But Tuesday is when the rain starts to come in, and you can really tell when that cold front starts to roll through, because once it does, it sends that temperature plummeting into the mid 30s at best, at least as of right now, for Thursday as well as Friday. So that means any moisture left over in our atmosphere will change from rain over to some of that snow. And that's what we'll have to watch beyond just Thanksgiving. So travel prior, you're probably going to be dealing with rain, maybe a little bit messy out on the roads, but this is what we really have our attention on for the second part of the holiday weekend. We're going to walk you through where all of that data stands coming up here in the next half hour.